No unboxing today, as this is a pre-production unit from Drop, formerly known as Massdrop. Interesting choice, but yeah. If you know Massdrop keyboards, they have the Alt, Control, and now the Shift. And surprise surprise, it's basically the same thing, but bigger. As it is a pre-production unit, it isn't the final product, and therefore things are subject to change. However, I can only review what I have in front of me, and I've been told that it will come with the same contents as the previous boards, which includes a keycap and key switch puller. The Alt was the 65%, the Control was the 10 keyless, and they've completed their range with the full sized. However, they didn't go with the usual standard 104 or the 108 key layout. They've gone the 1800 route, and I'm super glad that they did. The 1800 layout isn't a common one. For retail boards, the most known one would probably be the FC980, which is similar but not exactly the same. But it follows the same concept in making a full-size keyboard more compact. And this is done by combining the nav cluster and number pad, and then squeezing in the directional arrow keys. This results in a keyboard that is only about 1 column longer than a 10 keyless, but about 4 columns shorter than a standard full-sized, while keeping majority of its primary functionality. So there's 102 keys versus 104. The right control and menu or Windows keys are gone, and the right shift is the typical 1.75U key seen on compact layouts, and the 0 on the numpad is now a 1U key. We will of course be able to program this keyboard so you can change around keys, assign macros and all that good stuff, as it is QMK configurable just like the other models, but I can't do that at the time of this video. The shift retains the same aesthetics, so we have this pretty dark look with the grey and black keycaps and the dark grey aluminium, which makes up for majority of the keyboard. So we have the solid aluminium mounting plate, then plastic below that to allow for the side glow lighting, and then the aluminium base. It is a floating key design, so the key switches are exposed from the sides, and this is something that you either can take or you just don't like the look of, and in my opinion it doesn't look as clean as a high profile design, but as always, looks are subjective. But there's something about a floating key design and this 1800 layout. I don't know, it just looks a bit weird to me. Like, the layout will already look a bit foreign, but with that big gap between the number row and the function row, the low profile design just doesn't really look right to me. It looks a bit too big of a gap for some reason, maybe because of that depth left by not having something cover the switches, and yeah, it's hard to explain, but it just seems a bit off to me. Something even more ambitious would have been to fill that gap with macro keys or whatever, but that's something no one would really expect. But as a layout, I do love having pretty much everything on the keyboard for primary accessibility in about a 10 keyless size. And it is a brave choice, but I commend them for doing so. Beneath the aluminium piece, we again have the plastic, but on this model it is pretty clear, like it isn't really frosted or anything, therefore there's hardly any diffusion as we can see. I think to make it look a bit more even, they did increase the amount of LEDs by quite a lot actually, but I definitely would have liked to see better diffusion, but this is also subject to change. On the rear, there's 2 USB Type-C ports, which makes things a bit easier depending on where your computer is, and we can also use it for other devices and for charging and stuff. On the bottom, the finish is a bit different here, and there's no branding on this one, but I think that'll go back to normal on the final product. There's a bunch of flat rubber feet, and the main gripe I had with the Control were the absolutely terrible magnetic feet that fell off way too easily. So it's awesome to see that they fixed it now, and all it took was to have 2 magnets instead of 1. It's super sturdy now. If you try and just pull upwards, they're very difficult to remove. You have to push pretty firmly sideways to take the feet off. So now I can slide this across the table and they won't come off anymore. And by having magnetic feet, we can switch them to the other side, which gives us negative angle. Negative angle is all about natural wrist and hand positioning, as it prevents your wrist from angling up. It takes a bit of getting used to, but I always enjoy being able to use negative angle once in a while, also because it's so rare to see. The keycaps are the same as the old ones. They're pretty rough PBT keycaps and are double shot, so the legends are another piece of plastic and will never fade away, and they're seamless, so they look quite clean. And that allows for that RGB backlighting to shine through nicely, and the backlighting will be fully customizable when that is supported. The huge feature of these keyboards and what makes them more appealing to a wide audience is the hot swap ability of the key switches. You will receive a key switch puller in the box, and to remove a key switch, you just squeeze the tabs inwards and wiggle it while pulling up, and they should come straight out. The PCB accepts plate mount switches, so if you have PCB mount switches that have these plastic prongs, you'd need to cut them off. I wish it did accept PCB mount though, as it provides a bit more stability, as the key switches are of course not soldered in. For a keyboard like this, which is aimed at a larger audience but is still marketed as a premium keyboard, hot swap sockets are awesome. There's no soldering work to be done, like if you wanted to swap out the key switches, that would usually void your warranty and you'd need all that soldering equipment. But with hot swap, it's so easy. You could go from linear to tactile to clicky in not much time at all. I received Kailh Speed copper switches, and I've been told it will also be available with these switches here, and also as a bare bones keyboard with no switches or keycaps, which I assume will be cheaper. Opening up the keyboard is super easy with a bunch of screws on the bottom. On the control they were Torx head screws, so they'll probably be those on the final. The bottom aluminium piece just closes it up and is 2.1mm thick. The 4 magnets, which are now larger, aren't mechanically fastened here, it's just the feet keeping them in place. The middle plastic section to show off the side LEDs has a bit more to it now since it is a bigger keyboard. The aluminium top piece is pretty much exactly the same, and we can see why we don't get much diffusion for the LEDs because there just isn't any room, with about a 4mm bezel, and then the side glow LEDs are plentiful to make it a bit more even. The PCB is super clean, so we have our individual RGB SMD LEDs, and of course the Kailh hot swap sockets. These are the hot swap sockets of choice because they allow a majority of key switches to fit, unlike many of the budget hot swap keyboards that you see that use our Temu sockets instead, which only use our Temu switches. These instead have a leaf spring design, so when you put in the switch, the pin goes between the 2 leaf contacts and just pushes them apart. Overall, this continues exactly what the Alt and Shift aim to do. It's a premium mechanical keyboard that comes with all the features that will attract a larger segment of the market. We get that solid aluminium enclosure and construction, customizable RGB backlighting and side glow for that bit of extra edge, double shot PBT backlit keycaps that are seamless and clean, hot swap ability allowing you to change the key switches to whatever you want, so there's no messing about with the soldering, and essentially allows you to have a different feeling keyboard without buying another one. There's the option for negative angle. We have this compact full-size layout, giving us everything we need in about a 10 kilo size, and it's QMK configurable. All of this comes to $200, so if you put it against, say, a $200 Corsair, Razer, or whatever they sell in the shops, it really does blow them out of the water in regards to features. The only negatives for me are the slightly rattly stabilizers, and then purely subjective is the aesthetics. It is a floating key design and it does look a bit weird to me personally. But yeah, the shift ties up the line very nicely. I commend their decision to go with the 1800 layout, and if you like the Alt or Control but needed the numpad, then this is the one for you.